to ascend to the highest office of the National House of Traditional and Khoisan Leaders. We are very proud. We have always said that we as Africans have never been patriarchist in our approach. Patriarchy is not part of our social fabric and our value system of Ubuntu. Women have always played a role in terms of leadership from time immemorial. Without any further ado, I am going to invite the President of Contralesa, Kgoshi Matupa Mokoena, to come and render his remarks as well as introduce the President of the Republic. Let's welcome our President with a big round of applause. Kgoshi Mokoena Tumela. Kgoshi Mokoena Tumela. Kgoshi Mokoena Tumela. Ela Tumela. Yo. Kgoshi Mokoena Tumela. Kgoshi Mokoena Tumela. Kgoshi Mokoena Tumela. Ela Tumela. President Tumela. President Tumela. President Tumela. Ela Tumela. Amandla. Long live Kgoshi Matupa Gandaganda Mokoena. Long live. Long live Kgoshi Matupa Gandaganda Matibela Mokoena. Long live. Viva our President. Viva. I go.
Amandla. 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 Away, two. Royal leadership, we are blessed today, the son of the soil, our one and only, President Cyril Ramaphosa, honored the invite by you, my leaders. Before I can continue with what I want to say, let me assure our president by this clip, the clip eating. Apagame Ramaphosa, apagame, upagama. Pagama Ramaphosa, Itesha. O Pagama, Pagama Ramaphosa, Itesha. O unity, unity Ramaphosa, Itesha. Oh, unity, unity, welcome. Itesha. Pagama, Pagama, Pagama Ramaphosa, Itesha. Oh, Pagama. Pagama Ramaphosa, Itesha. Thank you very much, leadership. My Deputy President, Khoshi Pilane, NEC members of Contralesa, leaders of delegations from provinces, our National Chairperson of the House and your Deputy, our Honorary President, Inkosi Olomisa, our friends who made sure that this conference be a success, Mobicel, Sanral, and Muzipe Foundation, you are acknowledged. Fellow delegates, we had long speeches yesterday. Today, especially this hour, is reserved solely for our President to address the royal leadership. Mr. President, in welcoming you, I can only inform you, my leader, that yesterday, we took account of the journey that we walked as this leadership from long then up until the last day when the NEC of Contralesa had a meeting with you, my leader, with your delegation at Mahlambandov. We took them through the journey up until where we reported that you deemed it fit to assign or deploy our Deputy President, Didi Mabuza, to lead the process. We took account of all those events up until our last meeting, where the person you deployed in the form of Deputy President Didi Mabuza called a meeting between ourselves, Contralesa, the National House, and government. where we table those issues as you dictated, my President. President, in this venue, you are having disciplined, dedicated royal leadership from the whole country. Those who have been mandated by their branches, regions, and provinces to come to this conference. My leader, we have invited you here, not for any other reason. I will never in my lifetime invite my own state president for him to come and be insulted in any platform in my presence and in the presence of the royalty here. I will never unleash delegates to ridicule or speak anyhow to my president. We are so disciplined, my leader. I want to assure you, Ore, you have seen when you arrived here the manner in which you were received. This was not rehearsed or caucused. It happened spontaneously. So, you are our president. You are not in that position because you decided to be there. But branches of the ANC and leaders said, this is the man, Siam Tuma. And now you said, Tuma Mina. Mr. President, on behalf of all delegates and the leadership here, I want to say to you, leadership, you are the only president who, when I call you, you are taking my call anytime. The only president since I was a Hoshi here. If you see my missed call, you are returning my call. If I send him a message, he will respond to that message. The first president ever who can do that. Now, amakhosi nawa mongameli. Bonke balabazele ukuzozwa wena, batle kutokwa wena ke ubulla le bona. After that, I won't hear anything, or you won't hear anyone shouting at you or raising a hand only to ask a question. We are here to listen to our president. Hey, hey, I'm so happy. So leadership, may I humbly request you to assist me when I invite our number one citizen in the country, the one and only who respects your president, who is yours truly. If I invite him to come and talk to the nation, delegates, please assist me. My president, I humbly invite you now to come and address your people.
Amandla. Amandla. Forward with Contralesa, forward. Long live Contralesa, long live. Long live President Matupa Mukwena, long live. Sanbonan. Dumelang kaufel. Nimachirun. Abshe, Lochani. Program Director and President of Contralesa, Khoshi Mathupa Mokoena. Deputy President of Contralesa, Khoshi Nyalala Pilani. General Secretary wa Contralesa, Kosi Zolani Mkiva. Chairperson of the National House of Traditional and Khoisan Leaders, Umamo Nkosikazi Mamo Mhlauli. Leadership of Contralesa, leadership of government who are here, members of parliament, your majesties and royal highnesses and esteemed delegates. Khoshi Mokoena ne ke sa tsebe hore ba bitsa ganda-ganda. Ntse ke ipotsa gore ha o le ganda-ganda nna ke tla bitswa gore ke eng. And Kikwile Ori, the leadership and members of Contralesa who are here come from all over the country, and that pleases me. In December, I traveled to West Africa, and I was installed as a chief of Abidjan. So alempona ki emimo, lenna ki khoshi. I had to travel almost 8,000 kilometers to West Africa hore ba nketse khoshi. I would be willing to join Contralesa so that we make it continental. So you know, when I was there, as they installed me as the chief of Abidjan, and they adorned me with their traditional wear, which had a lot of gold. I just wished that some of you could have been there. And sometimes when we travel around the continent, it would be good to have in our delegation some of you as traditional leaders to travel with you. Because in a number of countries as we travel, we do get to interface with their traditional leaders. I found that to be especially so in West Africa. Program Director, I'm truly honored to have been given this opportunity to address you at this very important conference. Your conference is taking place at a time of great challenges and difficulties in our country. It takes place after the aftermath of one of the worst disasters our country has seen in years. Floods swept through parts of KwaZulu-Natal, the Eastern Cape, as well as the Northwest. They left in their wake destruction and devastation and death. This is a time for us to come together and unite behind efforts of all those people who are providing much needed assistance in our communities. Just as we thought we were emerging out of COVID-19 devastation, we were plunged into another crisis with the unrest that spread throughout our two provinces, KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng, last year. And just as we thought that we could get our economy to recover and our people to start rebuilding their lives, the flood devastation descended on us. I wish to commend the traditional leaders in these areas who have responded to the needs of their people, working to ensure that everyone is safe, everyone is given shelter, water, and food. And in the end, when disasters like these strike, it is that tried and tested leadership of our people, who've always been there amongst our people, that we rely on to rebuild the lives of our people, to give comfort to the people who are affected by all these disasters. The days, weeks, and months ahead will be difficult as we work together to rebuild those lives. You are celebrating many years of your establishment in 1987. This is an important and opportune time to reflect on the role the Congress has played, the challenges that it must confront, and the opportunities for broadening its work as well as its impact. Looking back, it is clear that the founders of this organization meant for it to be part of the mass democratic movement fighting the apartheid regime. Contralesa organized traditional leaders across the length and the breadth of our country to resist the homeland system, which relegated many of our people to impoverished rural areas separated along tribal lines. As an institution, traditional leadership has stood its ground as a legitimate custodian of the traditions of our people, the customs of our people, the ethics of our people, and indeed the cohesion of our people. Despite the efforts of colonial and apartheid governments that sought to capture the traditional leaders of our country so that the apartheid government can utilize them as their proxies, the institution of traditional leadership remained firm and resisted to be used in a way where there would be an instrument of oppression against our people. As the father of our nation, Utatu Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela said, heroes like the Khoi leader Atumayo, Maqoma, Hinsa, Cetshwayo, Bambata, Mampuru, and Sikukuni, Makado and Chibase, and a host of other legends. They were in the forefront of the wars of resistance. We cannot forget the role of our traditional leaders in the many wars of resistance against the occupation of African land. Many of us will remember that over a period of 100 years, our forebears in the Eastern Cape fought against the dispossession of their land, won many wars and battles against the colonizers who sought to take their land of our people away. We can never forget the role our traditional leaders played in the fight against apartheid. we should honor them by picking up the spear that they laid down or handed over to us. The leadership that will emerge here at your elective conference, just as those before, have the responsibility of seizing the spear of the warriors of the past and continuing with the heroic struggles of their predecessors. We have a very proud history of struggle of our leaders who fought and resisted. The terrain of this struggle, however, is different. It is not a struggle involving colonial wars. It is not a struggle against apartheid rule. Indeed, it is a struggle to create a better life for our people. It is a struggle against poverty, inequality, and unemployment. It is a struggle to promote social cohesion and nation building. It is a struggle to promote gender equality and to fight against gender-based violence and femicide. In its preamble, the Constitution of Contralesa states the following: we, the traditional leaders of South Africa, under the guidance of the God of our forefathers, believe that the aspirations of our people can only be met under a democratic state based on the will of the people in a unitary, non-racial, non-sexist, free and democratic South Africa, and that all persons should enjoy full equal rights of citizenship. We have a responsibility, therefore, to do everything possible to make this vision a reality. And Contralesa, as the traditional leadership of our country, has a double responsibility in this regard. Already in his tenure as a senior traditional leader, Inkosi Albert Luthuli had taken a decision to go against the grain and promote women's participation in traditional governance. I was particularly pleased to hear your General Secretary saying the traditional leaders of our country are not patriarchal. They recognize and promote the leadership of women in your ranks, and that has always been the case. In his book, Let My People Go, Nkosi Albert Luthuli wrote, I took the quiet revolutionary step of admitting women to traditional councils. Although the change was accepted by the people without a murmur, ingrained custom tended to keep the women on the outskirts of the discussion, but they did come, close quotes. This was way back in the 1930s. Back then, Nkosi Luthuli already had the foresight to use his position as a traditional leader to promote gender equality. I am therefore pleased as I hear your General Secretary saying, you don't practice patriarchy as an institution. Now, the report of the Presidential Advisory Panel on Land Reform and Agriculture, which I appointed, reported that in some instances, women are marginalized and discriminated against when it comes to inheriting and or owning land. your institution ought to investigate the statement with the intention to remedy the situation and bring an end to practices that discriminate against women. As the world is struggling to recover from the devastating COVID-19 pandemic, we are proud of the partnership that traditional leadership has had with government, communities, and other key role players in fighting against the COVID-19 disease. Together, we spread the message of hand washing, social distancing, and wearing of masks. Together, we promoted the importance of getting vaccinated. Together, through the National House of Traditional and Khoisan Leaders, we partnered with entities like the Solidarity Fund to distribute food vouchers to traditional communities. This was a truly rich experience, and I'd like to thank many of you who demonstrated outstanding leadership in your communities to work with government, and I thank you for the way in which we work together in this regard. This, Your Royal Highnesses, is the new frontier of the struggle. A frontier that calls upon us to join hands and fight against the death of our young people in customary initiation. A frontier that calls upon us to hold hands as we address national disasters such as the recent floods. As government, we are encouraged by the posture that the traditional leadership is taking. You will recall, for example, that on the occasion of the previous opening of the National House of Traditional and Khoisan Leaders, I was introduced to the Invest Rural Master Plan. I promised to have an engagement with the late chairperson to understand the full intentions of the plan. Unfortunately, that time never came as COVID intervened, and instead the late chairperson of the National House of Traditional and Khoisan Leaders, Inkosi Sipho Mahlangu, left us. The strategy has great potential to change the lives of the rural communities for the better. An important part of the Invest Rural strategy is the role of the developmental model, or the developmental monarchs. The concept of developmental monarchs encourages traditional leaders to have different members of the community who are retired professionals, graduates who may not be employed at the time, and skilled people to craft plans and vision of the institution. Government is aware that there have been delays in implementing some of the proposals that traditional leaders have been raising. Now, yesterday, you got to raise a number of those issues and also expressed frustration and sometimes anger at the manner in which things that have been raised by you as traditional leaders are not being attended to. Now, your president, Kgoshi Mokoena, and some of the other office bearers, the deputy president, as well as the general secretary, met me and the deputy president, David Mabuza, as well as the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs on the 2nd of February 2022, where they raised a number of burning issues that have not been addressed over a number of years. Our meeting had been preceded by a letter which was written to me detailing up to 16 issues. The general approach that your president and office bearers took was that they did not want traditional leaders to come keep complaining to government. They wanted to have productive engagements with government. I thanked them for that. And President Mokoena said he does not want us, when we engage, to be a complaint session. Now, because I'm such a nice person, they had come for a meeting. I offered them lunch, a sumptuous lunch at Mahlambandlovu. And as they finished eating, they said, "President, you seem to have disarmed us by giving us lunch first." That was the intention, to disarm you. And then we had created a very good environment and climate to have our discussions. But they did not pull their punches. They delivered their punches. And I believe yesterday some punches were also delivered here, even against me. Now, during the course of the meeting, I counted 26 issues instead of their 16, because I was able to split the number of issues and said, you've got 26 issues, as I told them. And some of the issues that they raised were, there are provinces that remove traditional leaders from their position without cause. That's what they put to us. They also said the land issue needs to be addressed, that land parcels should be transferred to traditional authorities. And they also said there are traditional councils that have been rendered defunct. They no longer operate. They told us that there are 882 traditional councils. Many of them no longer work. Many traditional council offices are run down and they need to be renovated. That's what they said. They said the roads to the great places leave much to be desired, in that many of them are not navigable. They said the Department of Traditional Affairs does not have the budget to assist traditional leaders to provide their services to the people. They also said that the Department of Rural Development has a huge budget allocation, but we do not see where the money goes. They added that infrastructure in rural areas leaves much to be desired. And they also added that there is disparity in the treatment of traditional leaders. They said some are treated better than others, others are given better resources than others, and there's no uniformity. They said that traditional leaders get a stipend. They said they should get a salary. They also said that the spouses of traditional leaders should also get salaries. So, I will not tell you what I asked them. Kgoshi Mokoena is laughing because I immediately said to him, "Are you saying that Dr. Motsepe, my wife, should also get a salary?" He laughed and he said, no, we can go easy on that one. They also said the National House of Khoisan and traditional leaders should have its own house. They said, as they added, members of the houses of traditional leaders should be full-time. They said the chair and deputy of the National House of Traditional Leaders should be part of the State of the Nation procession. They should not just sit there. They said when boards of state-owned enterprises are set up, we should also have a way of getting traditional leaders to be represented. They added that powers and functions of traditional leaders were preserved or reserved in the interim constitution, but when it came to the final constitution, their powers were dropped. One other issue they raised was that traditional courts bill. They said government should set up specialized courts to deal with disputes that happen in traditional areas. One other thing they added was that great places should be declared as national sites. And traditional great places of kings and queens should be declared as national key points. And they said there should be a better way to resolve problems. And they also raised an important issue that there has been a spate of targeting traditional leaders. In a number of cases, traditional leaders have been killed, and they said 33 traditional leaders have lost their lives. And they said that there's a need to set up a commission to investigate this. And then they added that initiation schools should be formalized. They should be treated as formal schools. And they also added that there are quite a number of illegal immigrants who enter their areas and do all manner of things, some of them criminal. Now, I took copious notes of all these issues, and then I took a decision to establish an interministerial task team chaired by the Deputy President, David Mabuza, to focus on the resolution of these matters that traditional leaders have been raising with government over time. Now, premiers, together with MECs responsible for cooperative governance and traditional affairs and houses of traditional leaders and Khoisan leaders, will be part of the engagement that will take place as we go forward, focusing on resolving these matters. Now, the establishment of an interministerial committee demonstrates the seriousness with which I am taking steps to have this matter addressed. The fact that the Deputy President chairs this committee should be confirmation of the absolute seriousness with which we are handling this matter. So the matters are being handled. Much as you may have expressed your anger yesterday and your frustration and annoyance, I want to assure you that these matters are being addressed. Now, I informed the office bearers who came to see me that the issues they have raised were multidimensional, in that some of them had to deal with governance, some deal with fiscal matters, which have a bearing on the setup of our budget and allocation of money, and some have to deal with constitutional matters as well as legislation, and some have to deal with issues of infrastructure development, and some of them have to deal with the criminal justice system. Now, all these matters are going to be addressed. We may not be able to reach agreement on each of these matters. Of course, the other one that they raised was the tools of trade. that our traditional leaders want the tools of trade so that they are able to execute their work. Now, these matters are being discussed. There's nothing that is going to be swept under the carpet, because we want traditional leaders to play their role as, yes, the leadership of our country, as another layer of that leadership. We want you all to play an effective role. And I want us to rise and go beyond all these matters so that we actually now begin to deal with developmental issues, issues that have to do with the improvement of the lives of our people, issues that have to do with reducing unemployment, issues that have to do with dealing with inequality, gender-based violence, and all those matters. I would like us to have effective leadership amongst our people. Now, the issue of land ownership that was discussed in 2017 at the traditional leadership in Durban is a critical issue for us all together to address. Consultations on draft proposals towards communal land tenure are on course, and I've been advised that Contralesa has already been consulted this year. As promised, and relevant teams are already working on the logistics. And when it is held, I would like to be there, because it is an important matter that we need to address. When we hold that summit, everybody must get involved, as this is a broader community matter. The other matter of cultural tourism is an important activity that has the potential to bring positive change to communities. I was particularly pleased when I went to the Eastern Cape and we met with our kings in that area, and we were discussing about the smart city that we are going to build in that part of the country. And they were deeply involved in the discussions and talking about how, as traditional communities, they are going to make a contribution to make sure that indeed that city does take off. Because they said to me, President, the land on which this city is going to be built belongs to our people, and we will contribute that land, and we want the city to then rise on the eastern part of the shores of our country. And I was particularly pleased that they are getting involved in the discussions at an early stage, where we are going to bring investors to go and invest in that part of the country. We need to create opportunities in all provinces and produce a cultural tourism route. We need to start documenting our own histories on the battles that were fought in defense of the land and our people's sovereignty. We must be able to educate our learners, our young people, community members and tourists on the importance of each and every area in our communities. Where battles were fought, we should be able to create a tourism precinct, because people are interested in the history of our country in that way. Our traditional councils must work to ensure that their areas become tourist attractions, and all of us must be able to explain our histories, cultures, and customary laws as well. One of the areas of concern that we must address are the disputes within royal families, which destabilize kingdoms as well as communities. We need to work together to ensure that our different customs and customary laws and practices of succession are observed. Elders that are experienced within the institution must be asked to help the young traditional leaders to understand what it means to be a traditional leader as well. I believe that we are on the right track, because if we work together, we should be able to find lots of solutions. I recall the words of the former president of Contralesa, Nkosi Patekile Holomisa, at the 1990 conference when he said, if all our chiefs and kings were to stand up and speak with one voice, telling their people that we are one nation even if we differ in language and culture, all our petty differences would come to an end. The time is nigh that our hereditary leaders are seen to be embodying the unity of our people. Close quotes. The leadership that will emerge from this conference will need to answer that call. We extend our hand of comradeship as well as partnership to the new leadership and commit to work with them in the interest of improving the lives of our people. Now, I want to conclude by just reiterating, as I see how things should progress, we are going to continue, Kgosi Mokoena, to address all the issues that you have raised. We will sit down with a great deal of seriousness to address those issues. Where we are able to find one another, we will do so. If some of the things will take time, we will set a timeline, but we are, as I said, going to address them all and not sweep anything under the carpet. And the delays that we've had and you have experienced will be things of the past, because the seriousness with which you have raised these issues and the seriousness that we have to address them has demonstrated that this is now the time to address these issues and finalize them. But having said that, I would like to see you all as traditional leaders, yes, working together with us at the local, even local government level, where in a number of places there are challenges, we address those challenges. Even with the Spluma Bill or Act, we should address all those issues. So all those issues are up for discussion, and we will find a way of finding solutions. And where we are not able to find solutions, we will explain very clearly where we differ and how we can find a way forward. And where, for instance, we have different views, we should say we accept we have different views, but in the main, I do want us to find solutions for most of the issues that you have raised. I then want us, as traditional leaders, to work on the issue of development. I would like to see the traditional leaders of our country throughout the breadth and the length of the country to be deeply involved in developmental issues, but also to be deeply involved in interfacing with our people, in helping our people to solve their various problems on an ongoing basis, so that traditional leaders are seen to be, yes, the leaders of our people, so that we remove this notion that some people have, that traditional leaders only look after their own interests. Now, I want to work with all of you that we should develop this country. We should build the economy of our country and ensure that the recovery that we all want to see does happen. And in fact, if we do so, we should be able to move forward to transform our country. So I invite you all that let us work together. Kgoshi Mokoena, I am prepared to work with all of you with the level of seriousness that I have demonstrated. Ngiyabonga, ndiyalibuwa. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, comrades. Once more, let's give a big round of applause to the President of the Republic, Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa. Let me take this opportunity to acknowledge some of our senior leaders and royals that have just entered the conference hall. We are honored to have today His Majesty, the King of Western Tembuland, King Dalimvula Matanzima. Adalvula! We also have in our midst His Majesty, the King of Amaxhosa, King Vulikaya Skau. Avulkaya! Let me also acknowledge our former president, the Honorable President of Contralesa, Inkosi Patekile Olomisa, who is also a Deputy Minister in Correctional Services, Justice and Constitutional Development. We also have the representative of Bapedi Kingdom, who is also a businessman, Prince Gruvin Chabeleng. We also wish to acknowledge the following representatives who are executives of the companies that came to honor this conference, who in fact have helped us by supporting this conference. We have Mr. Sandile Langa, who is here to represent Dr. Patrice Mutsipe as the head of Mutsipe Foundation. Let's give him a big round of applause. We have Ms. Aisha Tsose from Mobicel, that have made a major contribution to this conference. Let's also give her a big round of applause. As you know that last night we had a special banquet in celebration of our 36 years of existence and cementing our partnership with one of the state institutions that does a lot of work in our communities. We want to acknowledge the presence of Mr. Sipiwa Mxhosa, who is here to represent Sanral. The three representatives will be given 2 minutes after the president has left the Congress hall to just give us a small message of support. At this point, my leaders, delegates, your highnesses and your majesties, I'm going to request the president of Contralesa, together with the deputy president of Contralesa, to come forward to present a token of appreciation to the president of the Republic for having had time or make time to come and honor us with his presence. The president of Contralesa, Kgoshi Mokoena, will make this presentation to the president. Can we request Mamum Shauli to come on stage? Can we also request maybe our former president to come through? And can we have the two kings to join us on stage as we do this presentation? My leaders, if you can come just to this side of the stage. Okay, thank you, comrades. Let's just explain quickly and also allow a proper picture to be taken. The president of Contralesa, by virtue of the powers vested in him, decided to issue a certificate of royal appreciation to the President of the Republic for having honored this 8th Elective Congress of Contralesa. And we're going to ask the leaders to pose properly for that picture so that it goes down in history as a historical record. Can we have a proper photo? Oh, okay. No, thank you. Let's give our leaders a big round of applause. Thank you so much. I now invite Nkosi Nyalala Pilane to come and do a vote of thanks to conclude this session, which was honoring the President of the Republic. Over to you, Deputy President.
General Secretary of Contralesa, the driver of this morning's session, thank you for the opportunity. Representative of our partners, but let me start firstly with the President of our country, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, Khosi Matupa Mukwena, President of Contralesa, Your Majesties, our kings and queens, Nkosikazi Mhlauli, Chairperson of National House of Traditional and Khoisan Leaders, and your Deputy, Khosi Siaklulo, Nkosi Holomisa Adilizintaba, our Honorary President, members of the NEC of Contralesa, leaders of delegates from our various provinces and esteemed delegates, representatives from our newly found partners, Sanral, Mobicel, and Motsepe Foundation, government officials, all protocol observed. Good morning. It gives me a great pleasure and privilege to give thanks to the President for firstly allowing to come and address us in his busy schedule. Mr. President, we have heard you, and we are ready to partner with the government in the development of our areas and our communities. There has been a lot of complaints from our communities, especially those from the rural areas, because they have been neglected or they feel neglected by all the efforts of government in terms of infrastructure development. We are therefore pledging and committing ourselves as Contralesa to be part of that process of development, Mr. President. We thank you for your time, and we hope all what we have been discussing as you have elaborated, Mr. President, will be achieved. And we are quite certain that there's not going to be any point that we would not be in agreement. We will definitely find solution if we are all willing and committed to do that. Thank you very much and have a lovely day. Thank you.
Let's just make a quick announcement that we're going to remain in the plenary so that we continue with our program. We're going to request that when the state president take leaves of this Congress, the president of Contralesa and the deputy president of Contralesa and the two kings will usher out the president as he leaves. And then we can continue with the song. We request that we know the president is rushing for another trip to the Eastern Cape. He needs to exit as quickly as possible. We would have loved to have had the president to shake hands with all of us, but due to time constraints and the possibility that that can create a bit of chaos, let's just allow the president and the deputy president on our behalf to usher him out. This is not the last time we're going to have him. Let's give him a big round of applause as he exits.